talk about the body language thing. Body language. All right. Another form of a powerful communication technique that gets you into the Jedi zone, the Jedi rules of communication, right? You'll take me, you'll let me pass. All right. This is one of the most important aspects of communication. I talked about visual, audio, kinesthetic, and how a person thinks last time. This time I'm going to talk about how you can use their body language to your advantage, all right, to create rapport, to create this communication flow between you and them, where you're actually feeling what they're feeling. And it's a really cool technique. So body language, the idea is called mirror and matching. And if you've heard it taught from stage. It's a powerful NLP technique, mirror matching. It's one of the most powerful ways of creating rapport with somebody, okay? And the whole idea is that people like people that are like them. And one of the ways you're like them is there's like 4 different ways to kind of be like them when it comes to body language and really creating rapport with their senses. So you can mirror, there are 4 mirroring techniques. You can mirror the voice, tone, and tempo. Number 1. Number 2, you can mirror their breathing rate. You can mirror their movement, their body movement, and then you can mirror their body posture. Okay, so 4 things: voice, tone, and tempo, number 1. Number 2, their breathing rate. Number 3, their movement. And number 4, their body posture. All right. So this will aid you as you're trying to create rapport with your client. So let's talk about tone and tempo. The cool thing about tone and tempo is that you can do it when you're booking appointments with the person. So, but Alex, I don't know how they talk. Well, you start off, we call it low and slow. Start off in a kind of a neutral low and slow mode. Hello, Joe. Hi, this is Alex, and I'm with the Mortgage Protection Department. Low and slow, okay? Low and slow. Now, the whole idea of matching tone and tempo is you're not trying to mimic their accent. You're not trying to mimic to where you're trying to be an impersonator of their voice. It doesn't work. But you want to match and mirror their general characteristics of their voice, right? So if they're fast talkers, if they talk fast, okay, that's an indication that they're visual. Visual people speak quickly. Like I tend to be visual because I'll talk fast because they have all these pictures in their mind, and the mind can visualize quicker than the mouth can articulate. And so they're always catching up to the pictures in their mind. That's why they talk fast, right? I've got all these pictures in my mind I'm trying to convey to you, and that's why I'm talking fast. So when they're talking fast, you speed up, man. You speed up. And how do I know this? Well, you all know this because you ever have, like, if you talk fast and you're trying to communicate with someone talks slow, doesn't it drive you crazy? Like I tend to talk fast. So, hey man, how'd you do this week? Tell me about well, Alex, I did okay. I booked like 15 appointments. I made, I think, 200 dials, and I was really fired up about this. I closed 10 homes, and I wrote like this insane premium. Okay. Wouldn't that drive you crazy if you took a speak fast? You're just like, oh my gosh, can you just fill in the blanks? Fill in the space with words. Come on, man. Get going. Okay. It drives you crazy, drives me crazy. Or vice versa. If you speak slowly, someone who speaks fast drives you nuts. Now, here's the thing about people that speak slowly. They tend to be kinesthetic people, feelers. Okay, you can tell because feelers, what they do is they tend to think and feel what they're going to say first. So they'll talk slow. It's all internal to them, okay? They'll pause. Sometimes they'll have their tone will be a little bit deeper, okay? So that tends to be the thinking person. Sometimes you can actually hear me think. Like if I'm trying to think of the word and try to feel that word and then say the word, so it's sort of this kinesthetic thing. If they're doing that, then I would also match them as well. I slow down. I match their tone. Okay. Now, sometimes people speak very even pace. They have this manner that's very pleasing to hear. Sometimes I go into my DJ voice, my jazz radio station DJ voice, and I'll talk in a very even pace with people so they can, really understand me, but not too fast, not too slow, just kind of medium. And I think about, okay, I like to listen to how I'm talking because I'm auditory. So that's a indication of someone who's in auditory mode, right? They hear their words and they like to articulate and hear how that sound comes out of their mouth, and they talk very even. It's almost like they're singing a very slow ballad. Okay, that's about the best way I can characterize an auditory person, is that even paced. So the key when you're on the phone, number one, you're picking up what kinds of words are used to describe things. Like, for example, they may say, you're saying, I think, yeah, I can see ourselves being home at that time. Okay, so they're visual. So my visual they'll talk faster, and so I'll try to match their rate, and I'll speed up, and then I'll use visual words. So can you show me how I can get to your house? See, so there's a lot of things at play, but usually that fast rate of speech, I'm just trying to match that, right? I'm trying to match that. If they talk slow, match that, okay? Then when you're in the home, sometimes you're dealing with two different types of rate of speech. But I'm not going to be noticeable about how I mirror match their voice and rate and tone and rate. But I will do it. I have to do it because, that's why sometimes they can't understand each other, because one talks visually and very fast, and the other one's kinesthetic. They talk real slow, and they're just like, you're wondering why, man, why doesn't my wife listen to me? Well, it's because you talk too fast for her. Okay, so you got to be aware. Man, the whole thing about communication is monitoring how people receive you. Because communication doesn't happen until the message you're trying to convey is received the same way that you intended. Okay? So tone and tempo, real important. Okay, the harder one is matching the breathing rates, because sometimes they're wearing bulky clothes. Sometimes you can see someone breathing by, how their shoulders go up and down. In any event, when you match their breathing, like if they tend to breathe like shallowly, like up here, like real shallow, you can tell it's just like real shallow. They tend to be visual, right? They tend to be visual people that tend to kind of, and that's why they speak fast. They articulate words quick. It's all up here. Their breathing is up in here. Okay, I'm a singer. So in singing, to get the most volume, you got to speak. You got to sing from down here. You got to fill your lungs, and then there are some people that breathe like that. They breathe to the very bottom of their. They fill their lungs up, and then their diaphragm kind of pumps out, and then they speak. Okay, and those kind of people that are from the bottom of their lungs are kinesthetic. So it matches really kind of how they speak. They breathe deeper. They're breathing from down here, all right? And then what's left? Kind of the mid-level chest person that breathes. They breathe kind of, and that's the auditory. They just breathe regularly, okay? Again, those are indicators of how they think, okay? What you got to do in mirror matching is just try to match it's the hardest one, okay? But when you start getting good at this, you start grooving with them on how they're breathing. It's a cool thing. It's amazing. It's hardest one, but it's an amazing one that you can really match them, okay? Like I said, man, these communication secrets, I'm drilling down, man, because this can make or break you from being this mega superstar, okay, from being, average. I tell you what, all the top people in business, in the world, leaders, people know this stuff because they know how to communicate well. They do it because they know these techniques, okay? Now, let's talk about mirror matching their body posture, okay? So the body posture thing is real. Do you see what I did? Okay, I did this. Okay. I adjusted my glasses. You'll see Andy Albright do it too. He'll do this. Okay. He does that because he's trying to make a break in a thought. So listen when he does this, okay, remember I said when you put your hands up here, it's like you're internalizing a thought. And so my thing was, I need to talk about this next thing. Okay. So I just did this. It's real interesting how we all leave tells. That's how you know someone, is there's always a tell there. If you're a poker player, baby, all this stuff will help you get rich playing poker. All those guys know this stuff too. Anyway, so mirror matching body posture. So this is where you mirror their position. So sometimes you have people that are, they'll just do this. They'll be thinking about what you're saying. Okay. This is more of a gesture, but they're leaning on the table. And so, like if Joe is leaning on the table like that, then when I talk to Joe, I do it slowly. Okay. So the thing about mimicking, it's not mimicking gestures, but you're easing into it. So if Joe suddenly goes, he's really interested, he kind of does this. And so when I'm talking to Joe, so Joe, tell me what happens, and I'll just lean on the table too. So tell me what happens when you don't come home from work, what happens to your family. So you're doing the same thing, all right? Now, Mary, she's kind of leaning back in her chair. So when I address Mary, so Mary, tell me, and then I lean back in my chair. So I go from this position, so I talk to Mary, so Mary, I'm leaning back in my chair, so tell me about what happens to you and your children when Joe doesn't come home, he dies in a car accident. What happens to you and your children with your mortgage? Okay, because she's sitting back like this, so I do the same thing. You never want to get where, they cross their legs and you cross your legs right away. Okay? Because you don't want to be obvious. It's all very subtle. You're just kind of grooving. It's a dance. It really is kind of a dance of communication. And when you're mirror matching the body posture, man, you start really grooving into how they're thinking. You start feeling how they're thinking. You're feeling what they're feeling. It's this really crazy NLP thing where you start empathetically feeling what they're feeling because you're feeling the same thing. It's pretty crazy. When they cross their legs, okay, I'll just kind of, I'll cross my legs. But it's just real kind of this dance, Let's talk about gestures. Okay, so gestures. So, they might go, Okay, I may not just do that. I might just, I'll do something like it. Or I might even I might even do that when I'm talking because they did that, and then I'm going to do it. If you do it subtly enough, they'll have no clue because people are thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. But, don't be obvious. But you can do it. It's really interesting. Now, how do you know that you got this rapport going on? Is like, let's say they're doing this and you're doing this too. And they say, well, Joe and Mary, and you're leaning on the thing. How you know you have it is when they lean the same way as you, okay? I'm going to get into that later. It's called leading and pacing. But it's kind of like a runner that you're running with somebody, you're kind of pacing with them. So you're both like running at the same stride, the same speed, okay? And then, so you're kind of grooving, and then when you run faster, they run faster. When you slow down, they slow down. It's the same thing. Well, you got the body go, the rapport going when they move, when you move. Like I had a buddy of mine in Seattle. He was all fired up. He calls me and he says, man, it worked, Alex, it worked. I go, what? He goes, the mirror matching worked. It was so crazy. It's like, so I put my cup of coffee, because they gave me a cup of coffee. I put it to her mouth, but I didn't drink it. And you know what she did? She did the same thing, but she didn't drink it either. And then I put it down, and then she put it down. It's like, seriously, dude, that is it. It's called leading and pacing. And like I said, I'll talk about that later. That's when you know you got the rapport just grooving. Okay, so that's sort of the gesture thing. There's this aspect of gesture, matching gesture, which is called cross matching. So like, for example, if they lean back in their chair and they cross the bottom of their feet, their ankles, you may lean back in your chair and cross your legs. Okay, so that's sort of a way to vary it. You're kind of sort of mirroring their gestures and posture. Okay, so that's another subtle way of being different than them. But the bottom line is you're kind of all grooving together. So the other thing about gestures, again, kind of gives you an idea of how they are and how they think. And so a lot of times when you see people kind of doing this, or they're adjusting their glasses, or they're doing, they're kind of around their eyes all the time. They're rubbing their eyes, this kind of thing. Okay, they have little tics like, yeah, they're thinking. They're visual people, okay? They're in it suggests they're a visual mode, then you hear how they talk. It's like, yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, those kinds of things, their gestures around their eyes. Okay. If they're like doing this, or, they're doing this, their ear, all this stuff is all auditory, because their hands are in their mouth. They're messing with their ears all the time. They're kind of like doing this, like they're auditory. They tend to be auditory people. And then, they back it up by saying, yeah, I hear what you're talking about. Okay. And then the kinesthetic person, they're more, they tend to be more gestury people. Okay. They have this, they're doing a lot with their hands. They're doing like, yeah, they're doing that kind of thing. And they're using those words like, man, that's a powerful thing. That just feels right. They're doing a lot of hand gestures, a lot of movement. Okay, and that's more of that kinesthetic. They want to kind of feel everything going on, and they use their hands, because you use your hands to feel, right? It's a tactile thing. Oh man, kinesthetic people, when you close, like when you do the post sale, and you say, hey, you want to see your policy? Or actually, you want to feel your policy, but the kinesthetic people all over, it's like, hey, you want to check out your policy? You can touch and feel it. And it's like, yeah, well, here's mine. Let me show you what yours looks like. And you put it in their hands, and they're like, they have this tactile enthusiasm. They're like in ecstasy because they can touch this policy, and they're like all over it. The visual person, they're going to look through it. But the kinesthetic person, they're just like happy that they can touch something. Okay. Now the auditory person, what I would do with the auditory person is, let me show you my policy. I open up the policy, I put it in front of them, right? And then I read stuff like, you see here, my name, Alex Avian. and my coverage is 250,000, and then I have the return of premium rider. Okay. Do you see that? You know, that's a visual person, but I show them and I tell them, and then they see it. Okay, but they hear it coming out of my mouth. So I articulate what's already on the policy. So that's how I would handle someone who is an auditory. Make sense? So I know I throw out a lot at you. I'm curious to know if anyone kind of used some of those to find out your spouse or your children. I'm going to unmute and see if anyone did that to figure out that stuff.
Oh. Hey, Alex.
Yeah. Hey.
Shelly. Hi.
Hey, Shelly.
So my husband is a kinesthetic. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My husband is a kinesthetic. He talks extremely slowly. When you're on the phone with him, he takes a 2-3 second pause until he responds. And I am a fast talker. And I know he's a kinesthetic, and so I try not to say hello. I have patience,
cool?
I know. And when I do say, answer me, he says, I'm thinking.
I love it. So now, hey, man, if I've helped your marriage get better in communication, I've done my job, But it's so important to know how you are, because it's easier for you to come up with visual words, but it's harder for you to think about kinesthetic words that appeal to him. Like, honey, how does that feel to you? Like, you would want to say, can't you see what I'm doing?
Right.
Instead of using a more feeling type word. So that rocks. That is awesome. That's cool. So now you're aware. Oh my gosh, that will increase your ability to communicate 100%. It'll double your rapport building like crazy. So great. That's great. Let's see. Is there anyone else? Anyone else that got insights into that? Okay.
They can unmute themselves.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's sometimes it's just really obvious, but you got to be aware. And so using these tools will help you become more aware. I'm not trying to get you all crazy and stuff, but what I am trying to do is you got to know stuff. Seriously, you can't just go through life not learning stuff. You got to learn this stuff if you really want to get good at creating a communication path with people, creating rapport with people, and understanding. This helps you communicate with your children, your spouse, your pastor, people at church, people you're trying to influence especially. If you're focused on trying to influence someone, you have got to do this stuff. You've got to know it, and then you got to do it. And it takes practice. If you go to a restaurant, I challenge you to figure out your server. Is your server a visual, audio, auditory, or kinesthetic? How do they speak? What is their rate of speech? Practice all the time when you're interacting with people. Here's what's really crazy is that everyone will just seem to gravitate towards you because you have this magnetic appeal, because you immediately create this bond and rapport with people automatically. You'll sort of do it without even thinking. It's a powerful thing. And when you see this working for you, man, it's like an explosion. Whoosh! Because you just realize, wow, that was awesome. So anyway, and if you caught me, you heard me using all three of the visual, audio, kinesthetic adjectives in there. But anyway, rock on, game. I hope this helped. Great job this week. I'm fired up. Man, next week, man, let's hit 40,000 as a base shop. Let's get those leads. Let's get down to the phone. Let's do this thing, man. It's out there for you. So God bless you all. Take care.